Evening, everyone. Welcome to our special tonight with the guys from Voice of the Vic. Myself and Geordie are here. So, if you two would like to introduce yourselves for our listeners.
Yeah, I'm Mike. I'm from the Voices of the Vic podcast. We've been going about 4 years now, and we've got a team strong of 5 people now. Obviously, it just started in lockdown with me and Ben, but I think it was at the end of last season or maybe midway of last season. Joe, Katie, and Cam, who's here tonight as well, joined the team. So yeah, we've expanded, and like I say, it's been a bit of a bumpy 4 years in the time that we've been doing the podcast. We were in the Premier League when we did our first episode, and we've been down, back up, and then down again. In those 4 years. So yeah, bit crazy, to be honest.
Yep, and this is Cam here. I've decided to jump on the Voice of the Vic bandwagon when after Ben and Mike had done all the hard work of getting it set up, and I'm sort of riding on their hard work a little bit here. But yeah, I'm new to the team. I joined in the summer, and we're coming to the end of my first season covering Watford with this pod. So yeah, and it's been excellent. You know, I think I've got better at it as it's gone along, and it's good fun. And now here I am with you guys.
Well, what a season it's been.
Oh yeah.
Brilliant.
But no, what we'll do is speak a bit about obviously your channel, what you've got planned for next season, and then I thought we can go over a bit about the last couple of days with Watford, if that's all right with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if we start, Mike, we'll start with you. Obviously you and Ben started Voice of the Vic. What was the idea? Obviously you were saying lockdown. Do you want to speak a bit more about that, mate?
Yeah, so I've had experience of podcasting before Voice of the Vic. So I did a darts podcast because I was into my darts back in the day. I think that was around about 2018, and I only did it for about a year or so, and then I stopped doing that because I just fell out of love with it. And then I joined a Watford podcast called the 1881 Club with a chap called Ricky Hart. Some people might know him. I don't think he does the podcast anymore, but he did a few seasons of it. So I think I jumped on about 4 episodes. And I mean, me and Ben have been, best mates. We first met at Birmingham away in the 2012-13 season where we won 1-0. So we've been best mates ever since that, and we obviously talk a lot about Watford. And in lockdown, I left Ricky's podcast, and Ben just said to me, he says, do you fancy doing a podcast like me and you doing one? And I says, yeah, why not? We had nothing else to do. We were in a pandemic. We couldn't go out. Podcasts seemed to sort of really kick on back in lockdown because, as I say, nobody was doing anything else. And yeah, it sort of just went from there, really. We sort of said, right, let's put this out. And if we make 5 episodes, we'll see it as a success. And I think last month or the month before, we hit 200 or 250 episodes. So, yeah, it's been going ever since. And hopefully it's been getting stronger and stronger. We've recently hit the 500 subscriber milestone on YouTube as well, which was big for us because we went from doing what you guys are doing at the moment, which is just audio podcast, and then we made the jump over to YouTube. Now for people, I don't want to speak on behalf of the others, but when you've got a mug like mine, you'd think you'd be a bit hasty about jumping over to YouTube and visual podcasts.
No, I'm in the same boat.
but it's been good, and yeah, we really enjoying it. And like I say, we got the other guys on, and it just helps because I'm sure you two probably know if one of you is busy, it sort of puts a bit of a spanner in the works for the other one, and you can't really record on your own. There's no one to bounce off. So I think that was the reason me and Ben got the other guys in, is that we can sort of mix and match and rotate it. And yeah, it's going well, and hopefully those listeners enjoy it.
That's it. That's what we sort of do. Obviously, with us, it's myself, Geordie, and Rio who do it. But Rio's been away for the last couple of months because obviously his revision.
Yeah.
But we did a space this Monday just gone, and Geordie wasn't around because he had other arrangements. So it was just me. So it was quite hard. But I
It's a
got
good
through
listen,
it.
though.
Yeah, I
It's a
did
good
okay. I
listen.
did all right.
Considering you're alone, I was very impressed.
Oh, thanks, mate. Thanks. But no, I remember, Mike, obviously, when you and Ben started your spaces, and I used to listen on YouTube, not YouTube, on Spotify, wasn't it? And then you did it on Apple. So yeah, I used to listen it through Spotify. But what you guys did, and obviously interacting with the fans, and then you got special guests as well. It was really good, and that's where I got the idea from you guys, really.
Yeah, no, I mean, to be honest, you sort of start these things, as I said, with the intention of seeing where it goes. And I think any Watford podcast that you speak to is probably in the same boat. Like the people that we've spoken to, you know, whether it be ex-players, the fact that we've been in that position, there was a very small window where we were, you know, chatting to the club, and we got Christian Cabaselli, like our first current player interview. We were meant to sort of get more of a hand in the sort of current player interviews. I think it was last season, but I can't remember one of the sackings, and it's crazy to think that, you know, I can't pinpoint it. I mean, there's been that many, but one of the sackings basically hampered that. And the club said they were going to split the access to the players evenly with other podcasts, etc. But it fell through, so it was a little bit disappointing on that front. But the fact that we've been able to interview the people that we have, as I say, and we've had, you know, special guests on that are also within the Watford podcasting world. You know, we've had Pete from Do Not Scratch Your Eyes, we've had Jacob, Sam, Elliot from WD18. So, you know, it's really good to collaborate, and it's so good to hear so many new podcasts. Obviously, you've got yourselves. The spaces have really taken off. I think Do Not Scratch Your Eyes, you know, hit the jackpot when they did their post-match phone-in. That's just gone from strength to strength.
It's amazing.
You've got Yellow Squared Pod as well, who are new. So, you know, it's a good time if you're a Watford fan in terms of the content. It's just hopefully
You're just promoting all of our rivals now.
Yeah. We're hopefully now we can mirror something on the pitch to be proud of, and, you know, everyone can have a really good time recording, because I'm sure you boys probably find this, but after a loss or a uninspiring draw or something like that, you sort of no motivation to come on and record. So
no, obviously, when we've had some really bad defeats, to be honest, some of our spaces actually have got really popular, haven't they, Geordie?
Yeah.
So,
Well, through Watford's suffering, we do well. Should we get into Watford? Should we start talking about the club?
Yeah, so should we start about what are your opinions, obviously, Tom Cleverley now being our permanent manager?
Cam, you want to take this one, mate?
Yeah, go on. I mean, I've been quite strongly, you know, for Tom Cleverley being appointed, and I actually think it got to the point where, I mean, there's no other acceptable option than Tom Cleverley. I mean, we've seen it all over the years, haven't we? We've seen, you know, these foreign promising managers that, like Ivic, you know, came in with a bit of hype that, oh, he's gone and won back-to-back league titles with a team that's never won it. We've had Rob Edwards, you know, a promising young manager. We've had all the experienced managers in. We've tried all of it. What we haven't tried is going in-house, getting a club legend and someone who knows the club fantastically well, and he's been an excellent servant. And look, yeah, I got to the point where I just didn't see another acceptable option than Tom Cleverley getting the job. I mean, it's been a fantastic audition from him in my eyes. You can look at we've only won one game, but you can also look at we've only lost one, and we've played some of the hardest fixtures you'll get in this league. And I actually think if you look at a lot of our results in isolation, you'd look at it and go, hang on, a playoff chasing team would be pretty happy with that, wouldn't they? So, yeah, I'm a massive fan of this, and I just think you know, what have we got to lose at this point? I mean, if you want to get everyone back on side, surely there's no better appointment than this one. I mean, I'm keen to hear what all of you think as well.
And I
Well,
do think,
did a thing. Go on, Jordan. I'll let you answer first, mate.
I think the thing with Tom Cleverley is I saw someone say it on Twitter yesterday. This one needs to be backed more so than anyone else. We obviously had Rob Edwards, who we were told would be back through hell and high water, and we were fuming when he was sacked. And now it gets to the point of, if Cleverley isn't backed, that's the last straw for most Watford fans. And I think you've almost got to ask, at what point would Watford fans say, yeah, that's time to sack him? And I think, Mike, I'm going to throw that question over to you. What point, how bad does it need to get for us to say Cleverley needs to be sacked?
Well, I think the worrying thing is with the Potsos in charge, it can really take a bad month, I suppose, a bad sort of 3-4 results, but that completely destroys the object at hand. I mean, just as an example, let's look at the job that Grant McCann's doing at Doncaster. Doncaster at the start of March were 20th in League Two and sort of looking over their shoulders, worrying they might go down to the National League. They now occupy one of the playoff positions and have won, I think they've won 30 points from a possible 30 odd. So, you know, that just shows, and I'm not saying that happens all the time, but it shows that if you stick with a manager, you're going to reap the rewards. And some managers, most managers, are going to have bad spells. But in answer to your question, I think if my worry is, it's clear that Tom is so heavily respected in the dressing room, and everyone talks about how he's such a nice guy. I really, really hope that, yes, there's a buzz around the players at the moment. I've never seen the players repost the news about a Watford manager like they have been doing with Tom, commenting on his posts that he's put on Instagram. I really hope they don't take advantage of his good and just, when the going gets tough, they think, oh, sod this. We don't have to play, because, you know, they know full well what will happen. They think, well, we're getting bored of this manager and how he's trying to get us to play, so we'll just down tools and wait for the next guy. So I'm sort of hoping that we've got rid of those sort of players that would do that, and that we can really start to create this passion for the badge again. But I worry that if Tom goes through a bit of a rough spell, which he will, he's a young manager, and it's bound to happen, but we have to stick by him. We almost saw the benefits of that with Valérien Ismaël. Funnily enough, obviously, we're playing Sunderland this Saturday. You think to us losing 2-0 at the Stadium of Light, and it was all doom and gloom after that performance. And we stuck with him when many people thought, oh, he's going to get sacked any week now, any day now. And we went on a really good run, and then all of a sudden people were talking, oh, okay, playoffs, there's an outside chance, is that? And then obviously all went to crap again. So, yeah, I hope that if he does endure, or when he endures a bad run, he gets the backing of the board. But I think this will be very testing, and I think the Potsos will actually know now that if they mess this manager around, there is going to be some real aggro from the fans, and like I'm talking worse than before. So I do worry, because of what we've seen in the past. So I think he needs to be careful if he goes on a run of maybe 5-6 games without a win, maybe around that. I mean, obviously he's only got 1 win in 7 at the moment, but the performances are there, and we're sort of not playing for anything. So I do wonder how different things might have been in terms of his approach if we were still fighting for something. Would he have maybe made the changes that he has in the games, or is that a little bit, right, you know, let's see what I'm working with here? But yeah, you just never know with the Potsos.
Yeah, and I'm glad you've said in that football managers tend to not get the backing these days. And if you look throughout history, both at Watford and football wider, all of the best managers have been backed through often a first tough season. If I go to a wider football example, Sir Alex Ferguson in his first season at Manchester United was woeful. and we all know what happened there. And to use a Watford example, Graham Taylor, he had tough times. He didn't hit the ground running immediately, as we all know. And Graham Taylor there's a statue of him outside Vicarage Road. He's without a doubt the best manager in Watford history. I do wonder if Pozzo was the Watford manager at the time, would Taylor have been, sorry, not manager, owner, would Taylor have been given the backing? And I don't think he would have.
Nah, that's a tough one, isn't it? It's different. It was different times, but no, I'll get where you're coming from, Jordy, on that, mate. But no, to collaborate with what Jordy asked you, mate, I'm going to ask this for Cameron. Do you think, because obviously Watford have been linked with quite a few players over the last 2 days, do you think that we are going to be very busy this summer? And where's all this money coming from? Apparently, £10 million or something like that for this goalkeeper today.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. I don't think we're going to go around spending 10 million euros on a goalkeeper. I do think there'll be a bit of money, though. I mean, we've never really been shy of spending it if rumored transfer fees are to be believed. Like Ismail Kone last season, 8 million, Rajovic 2 million, and João Ferreira 4 million, I think it was. So look, we do spend money. The worry is, what are we spending it on? Because that has, without a doubt, been the big problem. We've brought in, let's face it, some absolute tripe last 5 years. So yeah, look, my worry with Cleverley getting a big budget here is, are we going to give him the right players? Are we going to give him the ones that are going to help him play the way he wants to play? I mean, if we are, then we're in for a fantastic season. But I think it all hinges on this recruitment, and we do have a lot of work to be done because, I mean, before you even talk about incomings, there's a lot of outgoings. There's Jake Livermore and Ben Hamer. What do you do with them? Do you extend their contract? We can go into detail on this in a minute, but I'm just going to run through all the problems we have. We've got Jamal Lewis, we've got Emmanuel Dennis on loan. I forget if there's anyone else. And we've got a host of other players linked with moves away. You know, Yasser Asprilla, Imran Louza, and you know, is Wes Hoot going to want to stick around in a mid-table championship team? And you know, there's also players you'd want to move on, possibly Rajovic, and you know, are both Matty Pollock and Sierra going to stay? So there's a lot that could happen on the departures front that we'd need to be prepared for, and we would need replacements. We'd have we'd have even more work to do on the incomings front. I mean, we're already short, you know, striker, goalkeeper, left back, right back, could do with a centre back, could do with midfielder, whatever. We need it all, really. Yeah. And yeah, I just think we've got to see a lot of movement. And I'm expecting a lot of movement. I am actually feeling quite optimistic about this window. And you're seeing over the last few days, I mean, the rumours are flying in at the moment, and with Cleverley getting appointed, I think they really are looking towards next season now.
That's a good point.
And
a
do
lot
you guys?
players.
Sorry, go on, Martin.
No, I was just saying that he made a really good point now. Obviously, there's going to be a lot to talk about with obviously players who might want to go and the loans at the moment. So, very valid point. We are going to be quite busy.
It does feel like, speaking of the loans, we got a lot of players as a club that I forget exist. The likes of Samuel Kalu, Imran Louza, even ones that play for us now, Mateus Martins. I just forget they exist. And I do wonder who stays, who goes. It's going to be a really, really interesting summer and a really important summer. And I think I'm going to throw a name. I'll give it to you, Martin. João Ferreira. What do you think happens with him next season?
I think he's got to be around the squad. I was quite shocked when we sent him over to Udinese because I think he's a lot better than Ngakia. But no, I think he's got to be around the team for next season anyway.
Can I just put in Ferreira? First of all, I heard he's had an absolute howler tonight, and cost Udinese the game in the 106th minute.
I didn't see that.
We're talking about him
I'd love us to get a right back in, but with the news about Jeremy Ngakia signing a new deal, and we've also got Ryan Andrews, I just don't see a need for João Ferreira. I think if we're having another right back around the squad, it's got to be an upgrade because, look, I know he's a young kid and it's his first season, but I've been less than impressed with Ryan Andrews lately. I think it might be a hot take, but I think he's been really poor defensively and going forwards. And he just looks all out of confidence and he needs that competition. Now, on the other hand, I rate Jeremy Ngakia a lot higher than a lot of people do. You'll know that from our group chat. But yeah, I just don't think you can trust Jeremy Ngakia. I don't think João Ferreira, has the experience and the defensive capability that you need. And I think Ryan Andrews is a young kid that needs competition. So we have a problem there.
But Cameron, I think you're forgetting something with João Ferreira. He's naturally a right back. But for Udinese, he's played as a centre back, left back, and defensive midfielder as well.
Yeah, right. I didn't know about all of that. I saw that he was possibly at right centre back a few weeks ago, and I thought, really? Because I mean, even on his debut against Blackpool, it took them about 10 minutes to figure out that he's the weak link defensively. They were just playing balls over him left, right, and centre, and he couldn't deal with it at all. And he never really looked to improve defensively. So, yeah, I mean, if he is this versatile player, fair enough, he could be good to have around. But I see a little bit of attacking quality with him, but I just think he's part of the jigsaw puzzle, not the complete thing.
Do you think he could be better than Ngakia if he stayed with him for the next 2 years?
Oh, that's tough. Again, we've seen a small sample size, and I see quality there. And he'll definitely play a lot more games than Jeremy Ngakia, won't he? But I think Jeremy Ngakia is a solid championship right back. I think he can defend, and I think he's got a little bit of quality about him on the ball. He carries it well. He makes the right decision a lot of the time, and he is half decent going forwards. That sounds really dismissive of his ability, calling him half decent, but it's the truth. He's an all right player for the level. Yeah, I'd have to see more of João Ferreira, but I think I'd be happy with Ngakia and Andrews, but maybe bring in someone who can compete with Andrews.
We had an Udinese fan on our podcast a couple of months ago, and I asked him about João Ferreira, and he was very complimentary of Ferreira, versatility, defensively, offensively. So I've got a lot of faith in João Ferreira. I really think he has a lot to offer, and we should do whatever we can to keep him next year.
Yeah, I mean, if that is the case, then welcome aboard. But look, I'm yet to see anything that gives me confidence in him. So yeah, I mean, I guess we'll have to see.
I think what worries me with Ngakia, I know he has a few good games, but if he has one good game and then down the line he's injured for a fair bit, but I just don't think he's reliable enough. I think he's a top guy. I like him, but I just don't think we need him, because I think we need someone like you just said, Cameron, about someone who play more minutes, because obviously Andrew's first season he's had a lot of game time. But that's why I say Ferreira, because I think he's played the majority of the season as well at Udinese. So, and he seems to be doing okay. But that's with Ngakia apparently signing his new 4-year deal, we could send him over to Udinese, maybe switch it over a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be against it, but yeah, it's like you said. I mean, if it was up to me making the decisions, as much as I do rate him more than most, I would have released Jeremy Ngakia, because he's just not going to play, is he? And yeah, we need someone who can compete with Andrews. So yeah, why are you renewing him? I don't get it personally. I really think he needs a fresh start. I think he should have left when Hull City were in for him. I can't remember when that was, but
years ago,
maybe. Yeah, he should have gone to Hull then, and I think he could have really kicked on. He was fantastic in his first few months at the club until Kiko got back in the team.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really gutted he hasn't kicked on like he could have, but it happens, doesn't it? And here we are with a bit of a right back problem.
Yeah.
And as the old saying goes, the best ability is availability. And how many times has he played this season? I think 4 or 5. That's not availability. We've had 49 games this season.
Yeah,
So
that's it.
it's
Though.
time for. I think most Watford fans will tell you it's time for him to move on.
Anyway, what do you think of the situation, Mike, about Ngakia?
Like Cam said, I think there's a player there, but unfortunately for the lad, he's to get a run of games. And, you know, as Geordie just said there, you know, he obviously come off the bench on Saturday against Hull. He's actually made 14 appearances for Watford, whether that's starting or off the bench this season. It was the same last season, and then the season before was 16. So he's sort of getting roughly about the same amount of games, but the problem is, as Geordie rightly pointed out, that's 16 in a season where there's a minimum of 46 league games. So it's really not long enough. And Cam hit the nail on the head as well. When he first come in, he was top of the stats for everything because, funnily enough, that was when our podcast really got going, was that promotion season in lockdown. And time and time again, me and Ben would find ourselves like praising Jeremy Ngakia. Wow, we've signed this lad from West Ham, very highly rated, looks really good. And then Kiko come along, and unfortunately for Jezza, Kiko in that league was just what we needed. Him and Sarr, that link up was unmatched and a real big part of why we got promoted that season. And unfortunately, Ngakia took the hit there, and he's just not been able to kick on. So I thought, for what it's worth as well, he did well when he come on against Hull. But he gets a lot of stick, does Jezza. But the bloke can never string I don't know, 3-4 games in a row. So yeah, I think Cam's right. He probably could do with a fresh start away. But if Tom Cleverley come out at the start of the season and says, right, Jezza's fine, he's going to get a full pre-season and he looks like he's going to be starting, I would have no complaints, because I think there is a player in there. Obviously, his confidence will have been knocked because he always keeps getting injured and he can never get a run in the team. But a fully fit Jezza Ngakia probably starts in this Watford team at the current moment. So yeah, I'm gutted for the lad because he's cursed, isn't he? It reminds me a little bit of Tom Dele-Bashiru when he first started out at Watford. He couldn't catch a break, could he? Because he did his ACL at Reading in the lockdown season, come back and did he do the same again at Swansea?
I think it wasn't as bad as the one at Reading.
Yeah, but it was a similar injury. So
That one at Swansea broke my heart. Was that the day we lost 4-0, yeah?
And now look at him. He's flourishing, isn't he? Yeah. And he's a key piece in that midfield jigsaw. And hopefully he's a player that we can sort of build around next season.
I think we're going to be building a lot around Dele-Bashiru next season. I think
if you ask me,
it's crazy what happens when you play him in centre mid and not right back, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you ask me, he's the best technical player at the club. I mean, that's why he's on penalties. He's from the City Academy, we forget. He's a really top quality player.
I said this, and I'll be quite interested to know what you and Martin think, Geordie. I was sat with Ben at the game on Saturday, and we've only had one penalty all season. And as you just said there, Bashiru took it. Bashiru wasn't playing on Saturday, so if we'd have got a penalty and Bashiru wasn't playing, who would you have to take it?
I actually had the same conversation on Saturday.
I think it I think it would have to be Edo Kayemba. He's the best ball striker we've got at the club.
I mean, Rajovic, if he takes free kicks, why can't he take pens?
I don't know if I trust it. Put it on a plate, tap it in from 12 yards. But well, actually,
even that will make a meal of.
Yeah.
I would have considered Wesley first.
Yeah, actually, that's fair because Hoot took first against Stevenage.
Yeah, and that I thought he was going to take that one for that reason, but also he is very, very good technically. He can absolutely twat a ball as well, so why not put him on him?
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't have many good options there. We don't have a Troy anymore.
No, well, I think even Troy went off the boil a little bit, sort of towards the end of his career. He sort of went against what had served him so well for years of just absolutely hammering it down the middle. I'll never forget Newcastle in lockdown, and it was a big game, wasn't it? Because we were fighting against relegation, and we won 2-1. We had 2 penalties. Troy put it down the middle for the first one, and then he come out after the game that he told Dubravka he was going in the same place. And I often thought, like, keepers know where it's going, so why don't they just stand there? But he did hit me with
I'd be
some
too
ferocity.
scared.
Well, yeah, exactly. But towards the end, he sort of tried being a bit more technical, I think, and tried putting them in corners. And that one at Arsenal, that still kills me. But yeah, it's not something we've had to worry about this season too much, as you've said. We've only had 1 penalty in the league this season, so yeah,
I think that's still quite shocking, to be honest, that we're not got more penalties.
I think that's probably more because of. I don't think that you boys might sort of jog my memory here, but I can't remember there being an obvious one that we weren't given.
I can. I can.
Which one?
I don't remember which game, but there was a horrible handball a few weeks ago.
Right.
It stopped us from having a clear shot at goal, and it just clear as day should be given. I can't remember what game it was, but I don't know how that wasn't a penalty.
Yeah, but we don't really play like that anymore. You look at the season we went up, and you had Sarr hugging that touchline at the byline, didn't you? And he would make that run in, and he was quite fast feet, and defenders had no other option. But we don't really have that out ball anymore. I mean,
we don't have tricky players as much.
Yeah, I mean, Asprilla is probably your best bet, but he always does too much. So yeah, it's frustrating.
He's still very raw, Asprilla. I think if we keep him for another year or two, he will become that player that João Pedro or Richarlison was. He'll probably go in the summer, but if he doesn't, he's still so young and so raw, and he doesn't quite know when to pass and when to shoot and when to dribble.
Yeah,
but he's got the ability.
Yeah, and I think it's really frustrating as well because we know he can do it, and surely he knows it. You look at the goal against Norwich, look at the goal against Rotherham away, and you think, he has the ball on the edge of the box sometimes, and you think, go on, like we know you can pull it in the back of the net from here. And it's like, no, I want to try and dribble through all 4 defenders and then do a rainbow flick and score the perfect goal. It's like sometimes, mate, you might be able to get away with doing that in the league that you've come from, but this is the Championship, man. And sometimes you just have to hit it. And, I think that's been a real problem of ours this season is the reluctancy to shoot. I found that very frustrating on Saturday. It was almost like we were trying to walk the ball in. And considering it wasn't long ago, I don't know if this stat still stands, but it wasn't long ago that we'd scored the most goals from outside the box. And I'm like, well, I think that's bloody brilliant. A lot of people are like, oh, that's a crap stat to have, but I think it's brilliant. Like, you're there to be entertained with football. I think the way, not to open this can of worms, but the way that football's gone, with all this passing and XG and everything like this, it sort of killed the game a little bit. So, yeah, I just think it can be quite frustrating. And Asprilla and Dennis are the two that really frustrate me because we know what talent they've got, but they're just trying to do that one thing too extra.
Well, we've been asking a lot of our listeners on our spaces, Mike, and Cameron as well, to you. Do you think Asprilla will be here next season? And do you think we will sign Dennis on loan?
Do I think we'll sign Dennis? Probably. It depends on what happens with Nottingham Forest. Because I was having this conversation in the pub in the Red Lion before the game on Saturday. And if Forest come down, I think they'll look to try and get any fee they can for him. And, he's a decent enough player. And if someone from Turkey took a punt on him before, you can bet your bottom dollar that someone somewhere is willing to take a punt on him again. But I think their problem is how much they paid for him. So if they hadn't have paid as much, I think they would send him back to us. Yeah. But I think the owner strikes me as someone that he'll lose his pride a little bit. The fact that he paid so much for Dennis, and if he sold him back to the club they bought him from, but for less money, it's a bit of a kick in the nether regions, really. So it's it all depends on what happens with Forest. I wouldn't rule out another loan, especially if Forest stay in the Premier League. And then with Asprilla, I think he will go, but do I think he's ready to go? Probably not. I think he could do, and this isn't just me wanting Asprilla to stay on, which I do obviously, but I think he could do with another year. And if we can, again, he can be one of the players that we build the team around, and he gets a continuous coach. Like we've seen cleverly what he's been doing with the youngsters. If we've got someone that actually coaches him, a bit like when Pedro went to Brighton, he had someone that coaches him as opposed to however many managers he had at Watford. If we can keep him for another year and really get him some good sort of figures, then we can really cash in on him. But it's a risk to take. But for me personally, I think he'll go this year.
Yeah, and
I think
with Dennis, sorry, I think we're in a pretty unique situation with Dennis actually, because I get the feeling there's only one club he wants to play for, and that's Watford. I don't think he's going to apply himself anywhere else. I mean, I just get the feeling, he's, the time he had here in the Premier League, fantastic. I bet he loved every minute of it, and I think he wants more of that. And I just think he wants to stay at Watford. So, look, in terms of his current loan with us, I think he's been an above-average Championship player, but he's not really hit the heights that we know he's capable of. And I actually think that plays into our hands really nicely, because he's not going to have, teams queuing up to sign him. If he, scored like, I don't know, 10, 12 goals here in his loan, Forest would be wanting, 10, 15 million for him. They'd probably be able to get their money back, but because he's not really set the world on fire, we could probably get him at a fairly low price. And I think if we can, then it's a no-brainer to pull the trigger on that one, because he is a fantastic player and he wants to play for Watford. I think he's been more effective under Cleverly than he was under Val. And look, he does like that sharpness, he does like that fitness, but give him a full pre-season, and I think that'll be ironed out completely. And who knows, he could get back to his best. But I would love to sign him, and I think there's a good chance that maybe we will. As for Yasser, I think he'll be off. I think it's almost certain that he'll be off. He's not sort of a João Pedro level talent that he's gonna, go straight to the Premier League. But I think, if you look at, a team like, is it Sporting Lisbon? They had a little dabble in the Championship last season, and they've ended up with Victor Gyökeres who could now go for 100 million. So I think Portugal could be a good place for Yasser to go, build his stock up a bit and get that big money move in a year or two.
Well, we've been speaking obviously about Yasser for quite a few months now on our spaces. We've been asking people, do we think it's going to stay? Do we want to go? I know Jordy thinks, and I myself think it's going to have another year. But we did say, didn't we, Jordy, the other week, that Portugal would be a good option for him, because we both don't think about ready for the Premier League.
If he does go anywhere, I really hope he goes to Lisbon, because I'm half moving to Lisbon next year, and I'm trying to decide which team to support. So I'll definitely choose whichever one he plays for. But yeah, I've just got to disagree with you, Cam, on something you said before about Dennis. There is no way he enjoyed every minute of the Premier League season, because if anyone enjoyed that 3-0 loss to Leeds at Vicarage Road, they are a sick person.
Look, I think he was just doing his own thing, having a great time. And I remember that Leeds game. Was it the Leeds game? There was one game we got battered, and I actually thought Dennis came out of it. He played really well, and I think he played really well most games. And I think it was the Leeds game. He looked fantastic, and I just think he had a great time. You wouldn't be able to understand really why he's absolutely in love with Watford. If you look at us, so we're a mess, and we're a mid-table Championship team, and yet this player that tore teams apart in the Premier League for us wants to come back. So yeah, there must have been something about it that was amazing. And he's clearly bought into everything because he even made his own little post about Tom Cleverley, didn't he? He put it on his story, and I really hope that means he's coming back.
But that is the beauty of football. We might not be the most fun club in the world or the best club in the world, but we all get behind that badge. And we as fans, we're a mess. You just said it there. We're an absolute mess right now. Financial mess, on the pitch, off the pitch, everything's going wrong. But we're all still supporting Watford. We all still love the club. And he's a prime example of a Watford fan. He's just one that's good enough to wear the shirt.
Exactly that.
I think we'll go over another 2 players, and then we'll come up with a few questions. But we'll go on to Dan Bachmann now. What do you think of his season so far? Obviously, he was dropped into Val for a few months, and then obviously he's got back into the team. Do you think he's performing well?
Since Cleverley come back in, since Cleverley come in, I think he's done a lot better, and he deserves his flowers after Saturday. Some saying that was his best game they've seen in a Watford shirt. Me and Cam strongly disagree.
We strongly disagree. Yeah.
Hang
on. We need to pause this track because we need to talk about this right now. Does anyone remember the game in lockdown, Carabao Cup, second round, I believe, against Oxford United?
Not in the slightest.
Right. That's the problem here.
Yeah.
Dan Bachmann in normal time made just countless worldie saves, and he was absolutely fantastic. And I think that was when we hadn't really had a taste of Dan Bachmann. We didn't know what he's about, so we thought, oh, what a fantastic goalkeeper we got. He was incredible that game, and I mean incredible. And I'm going to stick my neck out here. I haven't been watching Watford for long, but I'm going to say best Watford goalkeeping performance of all time. I don't have much to go on. I'm not basing that off much, but he was incredible. And then you get to penalties, the penalty shootout. He saves all 3 Oxford United penalties, and we go and win 3-0. Anyway, back to what we were talking about before.
Yeah, no, he's done a lot better recently, and I think it's the simple reason is he's been asked to do what a goalkeeper needs to do. It was quite clear that under Val wanted a goalkeeper that could play with his feet, something that Bachmann's never had to do before in any of the teams that he's played for, and he just wasn't comfortable with it. Some goalkeepers might take to it like a duck to water. Hamer was better with his feet and more sort of calm and collective. I think Bachmann does struggle sometimes. He lets his emotions and his passion get the better of him. I can list off countless times we've seen that. I remember at Brentford when we lost 2-1 in the Premier League. He completely lost his head that game. The Luton game away in lockdown, which we lost. He completely
Mike, I got a question for you about
his
that.
head.
Is that necessarily a bad thing?
Well,
that he's so passionate about the club.
It's not, but there are ways to portray it. Troy Deeney was very passionate, but you never saw him lose his head to the point of almost walking off. And just going back to that Luton game, I seem to remember we conceded a penalty, and me and Cam were sat at home watching the game, and we were like, we don't know if he's going to get back into his goal in time in order to be able to try and save the penalty. He was just absolutely lost his head. So I think there's certain ways to portray your passion. And yeah, absolutely. One thing we've been screaming out for the last few seasons is players with a bit of passion, a bit of fight. And Bachmann certainly has that. I just think that he shows it in the wrong way sometimes. So, look, I think, as I say, he's been doing a lot better recently. I think Tom's maybe put an arm around him and said, look, just play your game, normal game. I don't want any of this passing out from the back. I'm not going to ask you to do that. Tom rightly said he's probably the best shot stopper in the division. I heard a Watford fan disagree with that on the Do Not Scratch Your Eyes spaces. I can't remember who it was now, but I don't disagree with that. Shot stopping wise, he's absolutely phenomenal, but it's his all-round game which is the problem. And do I think that we probably need to be in the market for a goalkeeper, a starting goalkeeper? Yes, I do. I think Bachmann has had his time. He had that brilliant season for us in lockdown where he was part of record equaling defensive display. I think we equaled Preston's record of the least home goals conceded, I think it was. So we've got the joint best defensive record in the Championship now. And that was largely down to Bachmann's performances. But yeah, like I say, he's been doing a lot better recently. But I think we probably need to see a new man in the six next season, and I think we will as well. I mean, this goalie we've been linked with tonight. I think a few people we tweeted about it, and we had a few responses. And where's all this money coming from, etc. I think
I was one of them.
Some people are getting their wires crossed a little bit. I believe the reason that 10 million has been quoted is his release clause. So that's not to say that we're going to go straight in and be like, yeah, 10 million, no problem. Here you go, you can have it. But obviously, it'd have to be sort of near that mark in order for a discussion to be had, I assume. But yeah, I think we see a new goalkeeper in. But credit to Bachmann of late, he's kept us in games, and he's done what we know he can do.
Yeah, I just echo that because, sorry, I think Bachmann has been very, very good lately. Great shot stopper, and as we just covered, not great with his feet. But in this system where you don't need to be great with your feet, he's looked comfortable. And I'd definitely still look for a new keeper. But I'd ask, where does that leave Daniel Bachmann? Is he gonna stick around to be a number 2? And I'd say probably not. I think he could leave if we get a new one in, and I think we will get a new one in. And in that case, I think you have to renew Ben Hamer to be the number 2. As for who comes in goal, we've seen that link from earlier, but I don't understand why we can't go all out for Victor Johansson from Rotherham. I mean, they've just been relegated.
I think there'll be bigger, stronger teams that go in for him, and we don't have that sort of pulling power anymore, I don't think. So
possibly.
I completely agree, by the way. I think we should
go
for him.
But look, if the rumours are true that there is money to spend, I mean, I know we aren't ever going to spend 10 million on a keeper, but if we can spend quite a high fee, why not spend it on Victor Johansson? Why not try and tempt him to us? I mean, it'd surely be worth trying. I'd be a little bit disappointed if we're not in for him, but again, it's Watford. We don't go for players from the domestic leagues. We don't really go for players that are any good. So
you never know, Cam. We might be linked to them tomorrow.
I really hope so. But yeah, that's who I'd pick personally, and I think it will see the end of Daniel Bachmann's Watford career.
No, Mike, I think you just literally answered that. I think it was you comment about Hamer. Do we think he's going to hang around as the number 2, or do you think we could be looking at maybe 2 goalkeepers and get rid of them both? Maybe.
Yeah, I don't think we should keep Hamer. I think he's been really good this season, but at the end of the day, he's 37 years old now. I think, or he's 36 maybe. He's spent most of his career as a number 2 or a number 1 for teams actually quite a little bit worse than us. I really like Hamer. I think he's been brilliant, but I think it might be time for him to move on.
No, I agree with you on there, especially about Hamer.
Right, so we only got a couple minutes left, so I'm just going to throw some names out there of players that we've currently got out on loan, and let's just say keep, loan or sell. I'm going to start off with the big name, Imran Louza. Mike, I'll throw this one over to you. Imran Louza, keep, loan or sell?
It depends what his attitude's like. If he can fix his attitude up, then
one word.
Keep.
One word.
Keep.
Yeah, I agree. Cameron, I'll throw the next one over to you. I've already given you João Ferreira, so I'll give you Kwadwo Bar.
Oh, loan.
Agreed. Bar's a really good player. He did really well at Burton this year.
Yeah, I think it's a shame it got cut short, but I think what he needs is another loan, and hopefully season after that he can break into our team.
Yeah. Martin, I'll give you the next one. I will give you Toby Adeyemo.
Loan.
Yeah, I agree. He's He hasn't even started for Wealdstone. Well, he's been out there. He's only got like half an hour of game time. Definitely needs another loan.
Though, but I think he needs another couple of more loans.
Yeah. Right, back to you, Mike. And I'm going to give you Jorge Cabezas Hurtado, who lit Gillingham alight before getting injured after 2 games.
He was doing really well, wasn't he? Loan.
Quick question.
Where to?
Him too. Yeah. What league?
Let's go League One.
Good shout.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that.
Yeah, agreed. All right, Cameron, back to you. Shaq Ford.
Oh. Well, no, you know what? I'm going to go keep.
Yeah, I'm on the same there. Keep.
I think with him, it depends who the other strikers we have at the club are.
Yeah, that's my thinking.
Oh, what a goal. Sorry, I'm just watching the City game.
Yeah, I've seen it. Phil Foden.
Martin, back to you for the next player. And unless I'm forgetting someone, this is the last player. Samuel Kalu.
Bell.
I thought you might say that.
Yeah, definitely Bell for me.
I really
like
like Kalu. I think he's an underrated player. He just struggled for fitness quite a lot. But I'd like to see him play. I just don't think he will. I think we'll get about $1 million for him.
Yeah, I think that, mate. Maybe $1 million, maybe just under.
Yeah. Have I forgotten anyone? Or is that all the loans?
You've forgotten Michael Adupoku, who was on loan at Maidstone. But for what it's worth, I think we need to send him out on loan again.
What do you reckon can happen with Jack Greaves?
Jack Greaves, that's a very good question. Now, because we've got Cleverley in charge, I think we will find out what his plans are with Greavesy, probably on Saturday and then the following Saturday against Middlesbrough. If he makes an appearance there, you would like to think that he's going to be in and around the squad. The fact that he turned down Brentford at some stage of it, was it this season or in the summer?
It was in pre-season.
Yeah, it was in the summer.
Yeah, the fact he turned them down, you'd like to think that he's maybe been promised, breaking into that first team. And with Clevs at the helm now, you'd like to think that would be the case. But we've not seen enough of him to know. I mean, he played against Reading in the FA Cup last season, and he was a typical academy player. You know, he obviously loves the club. He run and would run through sort of brick walls, but we didn't see enough to sort of think, oh, there's a player there. We just saw a player that likes to run. And yeah, hopefully he can break into that team, and hopefully we see him on Saturday and then again against Middlesbrough. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. You know, Albert Eames, does he get a look in? Does he, Messiah Edwards, again, does he get a look in before the end of the season? If you're going to do it now, is what I'd say.
Yeah, I agree. I think we need to start playing some of these youth players, definitely.
The thing with Greaves is next season, either he plays or he loans, because he's too good for us to let him go.
Yeah, I think he'd suit a League One loan.
Yeah, I think he needs an EFL loan personally.
Yeah, definitely.
Probably League Two, because he's got no first team experience whatsoever. Just loan him to League Two and see what he can do. If he's got it, he's got it. If he doesn't, we'll see, won't we?
Yeah.
Well, we can loan him to Solihull Moors when they get promoted.
Absolutely, that's true enough.
Like, quite a few too.
As long as Barnet don't go up.
But no, one of the
Don't worry, they'll see to them on Saturday.
But no, we're wrapping things up in a bit, guys. But one thing I want to ask you: what have you got planned for the rest of this season and for next season onwards?
Well, for next season, it depends how we do. I suppose it'd be great to have a good season because, as obvious as this is going to sound, the best figures come when Watford are doing really well. We sort of reaped those benefits in lockdown because we were so good. But we're trying something new this weekend. I'm doing a live watch along on our YouTube channel. We've never done one before, and they seem to be the rage now. I often get mistaken that I'm not one of these young kids anymore that's totally tapped into what's going on social media. And I often see people do these live watch-alongs. And I thought, you know what? I might as well. It's, I'm not doing anything else. So I'm going to set the tripod up and watch the game on Saturday against Sunderland. Have a couple of drinks, and hopefully people can join in and comment and watch the game with me as well. So I'm doing that on Saturday. Depending on how well that goes, it might be something that we do more regularly next season. We definitely want to do more match day vlogs. They've been very well received this season. And yeah, I mean, look, the end goal is, whether it's next season or in 5 years' time, if we're still going, we want to do a live event, or we want to do something like that.
Yeah.
But we're not quite where we want to be in terms of the fan base just yet. I think if we turned up, it'd be one man and his dog. And I think even they would struggle to sit out the whole thing. So
I wouldn't even show up, to be honest.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, but hopefully lots of content next season. I think of late we've been a bit guilty of not putting out as much content as we perhaps should have done, especially now there's 5 of us. But hopefully lots of content next season, and more opposition podcasts, and yeah,
I've
that's
got
the plan.
I've got to admit, I do love watching the opposition podcasts. I think they're really good.
They're good fun. We do try and mix it up, to be honest, because we obviously, having been doing this for 4 years now, you sort of get you know other podcasts, and you speak to some on more of a basis than others, and we try and mix it up. We do not scratch your eyes, just to give them a bit of a shout out, because it's their 500th episode was released today or yesterday, but
Yeah.
I only listened to it today. So they do an amazing job with their opposition previews. You know, they've got Jarvis Cocker Spaniel, they've got John doing the backgammon, and they have such a laugh with it, and they are top blokes and really, really good at what they do. And we actually try to get someone different than they've had on, because it's nice to have a different sort of viewpoint and not just hear the same sort of views because they've had them on already. So we like to try and mix it up, but we'll hopefully get a few new faces on the opposition podcast next season. And look, a new one definitely will be Portsmouth. We've never spoken to a Portsmouth podcast before. We haven't spoken to the Derby one for, I think, 4 years. And I'm secretly hoping that Lincoln come up as well, because I live in Lincoln now. So it'd be nice to chat to a Lincoln podcast as well. But yeah, we do enjoy the opposition ones. You can have a laugh with them sometimes, and it's good fun, and it's good to speak to all these other podcasters as well.
And one that won't be changing, thanks to QPR's survival, is Paul Finney coming in, and no one is happier about that than I am.
Yeah, Paul Finney. If I'm not about to start plugging a QPR podcast on a Watford one, that would be suicidal. But he's if you don't know who we're on about, when we play QPR next season, or if you got a few spare minutes, go and listen to the 2 QPR previews that we've done this season, because Paul's hilarious. So
I think I watched one. I think I saw one of them with him.
Yeah, no, he's a top bloke. But you meet some great people, like some of the fans. I mean, Ipswich was one that bugged me a bit. We didn't manage to get an Ipswich pod on. We will not be getting one on next season by the looks of it, unless they bottle it. But yeah, it's all good fun.
Yeah. All right, guys. I've got to go now, but thank you for coming on, Mike and Cam. It's been great talking to you.
Cheers for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us, and hopefully your channel grows and grows, and we'll put this out from our side as well, and we'll hopefully get you a few subscribers.
Just last thing, Mike. What advice could you give us as a channel? Because we've got a few ideas.
The advice I can give you is don't come to me for advice on podcasting. No, in all seriousness, just be yourselves. There's nothing worse. I've been guilty of this before, trying to be someone that I'm not, and trying to, give viewpoints that I don't totally agree with. Just, even if you get slated for it, just talk from, just talk the truth, and what you believe in, and if some people will agree, some people won't. That's the beauty of podcasting, and you'll get people that comment, and it's good to have these little debates. But just keep doing what you're doing, and like ourselves, you'll find yourself doing this in another 4 years' time, and you'll be on 1 million subscribers, Martin, and you'll be looking back on this advice with a tear in your eye. And yeah, no, but all seriousness, just keep doing what you're doing, and it'll grow. And honestly, as soon as Watford start picking up, you'll see what I mean about the figures and everything.
Well, thank you both so much for coming to speak with me and Jordy tonight. It's been great listening to you as well.
No, absolutely not a problem, and we'll return the favour at some point next season, and you can come on one of our shows, and we'll plug this, and hopefully you'll get a lot of Watford fans discover this, because it's been real good fun tonight, and keep up the good work, chaps.
And same to you guys.
Thank you.
Well,
Great.
before you go, Mike, all the best for your wedding as well, mate.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'll be glad financially once that's done, and I can start paying off. Believe me, it's not cheap. So thank you.
Well, thanks again, guys, and enjoy the rest of your night. And we'll speak soon, guys.
Yeah.
You
Cheers.
would.
You all. Thank you. Bye.